Call to order the workshop session for Common Council meeting, June 4th, 2019 at 5 p.m. Clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Williams? Here. Councilmember Belmonte? Here. Councilmember Heenan? Here. Councilmember Civiletto? Here. Councilmember Elijah Washington?
Present. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Since this is a workshop, we'll skip over certification of the prior meetings, reading of the privilege of the floor regulations and privilege of the floor. We'll begin with communications from the mayor, including disapproval messages. Not here at the moment, so we'll see if he pops in and go back to him. Communications from the public and petitions. Clerk?
Number 1, request from the Dunkirk First United Methodist Church and other participating churches to use Washington Park on Saturday, June 22nd, 2019 to host a neighborhood block party with music, games, a bounce house, and hot dogs from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m.
Any discussion, council? No questions or concerns about Washington Park, police department, fire department, DPW? Okay, I will be looking for a usual motion. I need a first.
So moved.
Second. Number 2.
Request from the Unique Car Club to hold a car show at the Brooks Locomotive Large Pavilion and the Lower Pavilion of Point Gratiot on Sunday, August 25th, 2019, from 12 noon till 6 p.m.
Any discussion, council?
There is somebody here that can answer questions in case anybody has any questions.
Sir, is that you?
Yes, sir.
What's your name?
My name is Juan Rivera.
Does anybody have any questions, concerns for Mr. Rivera and his Unique Car Club car show?
Is there a registration for that fee?
There is a entry fee for the cars. That's it. The rest of it's open for the public.
Councilman Bomano?
I was wondering if the police department had anything.
Police department have any questions or concerns?
The only thing Chief passed on me was he had no problem with the DJ, but anything with a car, radio, bass off, something like that was his concern.
Yeah, that I don't have a problem with that. I mean, I could take that equation out of it. You know, I mean, I could still do the car show, but without the music from the cars. I could use the DJ booth. I just would like to see, you know, police. If I get approved for it, I would like to see at least police
Presence.
You know what I mean? And not, you don't have to stay there, but I like to see you guys around for like that they know that there's police presence.
When we vote on the loudspeaker application,
Yes.
the chief of police did put down at the bottom of the loudspeaker application, no car audio, and so did our city attorney. So that conversation will come up again later in this meeting and later in the council meeting as well. So if it is approved, it will be approved contingent upon no car audio.
Okay.
Okay. Any further questions, Mr. Romano?
Do we have to amend that, or just?
No,
Just
that's
exit
just,
out.
that's just part of the application process. We'll just make note of that.
I got a question.
Councilman Heath, or Williams, I'm sorry.
You mentioned you'd like to see their presence so they know that are you expecting trouble if the
No,
police
it's
aren't
just-
going through there?
No, just there's a lot of people, you know, there's different people from different areas, there's people coming from here, people coming from Ohio, people coming from Buffalo, Rochester, from all over the place, and at least if there's police around, like, I was at a couple car shows that they did there, and there was police come around it,
Mhm.
there was less, the people see that there's presence there, and they kinda like,
They tend to behave.
Make sure they behave themselves.
Last year, I asked because last year we had trouble down there with the 716 car show.
yes, I know, I was present there.
And I was just hoping that that doesn't turn into that with this, and this isn't like a different name of the 716
No,
or?
no,
Okay.
that's a total different group. I'm a total different group. My guys are almost, my group is almost all older people.
Okay.
They are couples, you know, we do our meetings, we meet at the point every other weekend. We do cookout, we sit there, and that's, even if we go to car shows, and we're not driving around burning tires or anything like
All right,
that.
then the only other thing that I'd ask, and you don't have to, I would just ask if you could, the things that we talked about here, if you could go to the council meeting so that you could, at the,
To put it on record.
Yeah, the public part of the council meeting, if you could get up and just state what you plan to do and how you'd like it run, then we have it on public record, because this one really isn't a public record meeting, this is just a workshop. And then we know what we're looking for, and then we can vote
Yeah, no
with a better
problem.
conscience that way.
So,
Thank you.
Councilman Heenan?
Yeah, and thank you, because I know you have some concerns also, and I think you have an opportunity here to have a yearly event, and I hope it goes well for you as you expect, and the same for the city and the residents too, so best of luck to you.
Is
Bless you.
Bless you. Is that gonna interfere with anything else booked at the?
No, they have,
everything already
yeah,
booked?
they have everything set up.
Okay, I'll be seeking I'm sorry, Councilman Civiletto?
I just wanted to put my full support towards Mr. Rivera as well. He's my next door neighbor, and we've had multiple conversations about
sorry.
the car show. Yeah. So he's very concerned with what the car show, the presence, what it looks like, and it being a presence of goodwill in the community, and not a negative, doesn't have a negative look. So I vouch, I can vouch for him, but I say that he's very concerned with, and wants to make sure that this is a positive experience for everyone.
Great.
Okay, thank you. I'll be seeking a usual motion. Councilman Williams with the second, or Councilman Williams with the first, and looking for a second. Councilman Civiletto. Number 3.
Request from the Dunkirk City School District to have the road between Serval Street and Warsaw Street closed to traffic on Monday, June 24, 2019, from 8 a.m. till 2 p.m. to accommodate the end-of-school year picnic day at School 7.
Any discussion, council? Questions or concerns from any of the department heads?
Specifically say Pine Street at all, or?
No, it doesn't.
The letter doesn't say Pine Street, the letter says.
The same
The
thing
street,
we went
next
so-
to
out.
the Little
so we're not
League
closing
field.
5.
It said next to the Little League
Yeah, I
field.
just saw it, yeah.
Any further discussion? I'll be seeking a usual motion. Need a first. Councilman Bamanto. Need a second. Councilman Williams. Number 4.
Notice of claim from Chad Bradigan for alleged injuries sustained from falling off a dock on July 4th, 2018 at the Chadwick Bay Marina, approximately 10:30 p.m.
We will refer this to the law department, and I would need a first.
So move.
Councilman Williams with the first.
Second.
Councilman Civiletto with the second. We have 5 loudspeaker applications before us this evening. I'm going to have the clerk go through each one of them individually. If we have questions or concerns about them here, or need to make changes that we discover here during our discussions, we'll pull those ones out individually and treat them on an individual basis during the meeting. For those loudspeaker applications that do not have anything discussion-wise or change-wise, we'll group them all together during the meeting for one vote. Clerk?
A, the First United Methodist Church to use a portable sound system at Washington Park, June 22nd, 2019, from 10 a.m. till 2 p.m. during their neighborhood block party.
And this loudspeaker application matches up with their communication in number 1.
Correct. B, Henry Houghton Sr. to use speakers and a band on July 3rd, 2019, from 7 p.m. at 211 Webster Street for a housewarming and birthday party.
I know he does this every year, and it's never been an issue in the past. Is there any discussion about this one? C?
C, Campy's Pizza to use small amp and 2 speakers on the boardwalk to celebrate during the 4th of July from 3 p.m. until 7 p.m.
Since this is on the 4th of July, are there any questions or concerns about that? Any commingling with other events that it might cause? Seeing none, move to D.
D, Kathy Kern to use audio equipment for live and pre-recorded music, and that should be at 134 Point Drive North. on June 15, 2019, from 5 p.m. until 7 p.m. for a birthday party.
It is correct on the application itself, it just was transposed on the agenda incorrectly, therefore it's just a typo. So instead of saying 34 Elm Street, which is the house address, their home address, the event itself is being applied for at 134 Point Drive North. Any questions or concerns about that? Moving on to E.
E, I don't think I can read upside down here. Juan F. Rivera and the Unique Car Club to use DJ, music, microphone, speakers, and car audio at the Brooks Locomotive Large Pavilion and the Lower Pavilion at Point Gratiot on Sunday, August 25th, 2019, from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. during their car show.
Okay, and this loudspeaker application goes along with communication number 2, which we discussed with Mr. Rivera. We will make note during the council meeting as well that if this is approved, this is approved contingent upon no use of car audio. Any questions or concerns pertaining to this loudspeaker application? Seeing no questions, concerns, or changes to any of the loudspeaker applications, we will group them all together in the meeting for one vote and one discussion. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Williams with the first, second.
I'll second.
Civiletto with the second. Okay. I will bring up those two, as the clerk is reading them, I will bring up the typo in D during the council meeting, and I will bring up the contingency in E during the council meeting as well. Reports of standing committees, boards, and commissions. Councilman Williams?
Just, Glenn, are you gonna be at the council meeting soon then? Okay, I'll ask here too. The grass is quite high on a lot of properties. Are you getting around and getting letters out, and what's the next step to get the lawns mowed?
Yes, we've set out violations and we've ordered contractors out.
Okay. Do you know how soon the contractors will be getting into a lot of these?
They've already done 10 to 20.
Okay. All right, thank you. That's
all?
Yeah, I just want to make sure of the rest.
Councilman Vermonto?
Sometimes Glenn isn't.
Brandon, that pothole on Lucas and Miranda Drive, you gotta get to that thing. Thank you. That's all I have.
Councilman Civiletto?
I'm good.
Councilman Heenan? Okay. And Glenn, just so people understand, the lawn thing happens every year at this time. It's nothing new. But just so people understand, can you please explain, I'll ask you this during the meeting as well, if you want to do it during Don's question, that's fine. The legal timeline and process that your office has to follow and why it takes so long for a lawn to get cut.
Yes, we receive a written complaint. We verify that the grass is indeed over 6 inches. We send a notice of violation. Starting this week, I will also be putting door tags on. They have 7 days that we re-inspect if it hasn't been cut. We send a contractor out to cut the grass.
Okay. So it could possibly be about 2 weeks from the time that they actually get turned in.
We try to do them as expeditiously as possible, within a couple of days follow up on a complaint.
Okay.
And then as I'm going around, I also make notes of properties that need done as well.
From the time the complaint comes in, it could possibly be about 2 weeks before it gets cut, even though you're acting on that complaint immediately.
We give them 7 days to act with a written notice, yes.
And then a contractor comes out. So I just want people to realize the timeline, is because I don't want people to think that they put the written complaint in today, so their city's gonna send a contractor out tomorrow. It's not that type of a situation.
And the homeowner's gonna get a bill for that contract, right?
Yes.
No unfinished, is the mayor here? Yes, okay, we're done with reports of standing committees, boards, and commissions. We'll skip back to number 5, communications from the mayor, including disapproval messages. Mayor?
Nothing other than that, back in 2016, I had requested an audit from the New State Comptroller's office, and we've been informed that they will be here this week to begin that audit process.
Okay, anything else? No. Thank you, Mayor. We have no unfinished business. So we'll move right along to number 9, pre-filed resolutions.
53, resolution authorizing a bond resolution for the acquisition of a ladder fire truck and apparatus.
Any discussion, council? Councilman,
There should be resolution authorizing a bond sale for the acquisition of a ladder fire truck and apparatus.
not a bond resolution.
It's a resolution authorizing a resolution. We already covered the resolution, so it's authorizing a bond sale.
Okay, so we'll count that as a typo and scratch out resolution and rename it as a bond sale. Any further discussion? Councilman Civiletto?
Yeah, Marcia, since you haven't been here for a little while, can you give us your thoughts about what this is about the bond sale?
Actually, I'm a second, that's okay. Can't see anybody. Of course, I've just been back a couple of days, but I was able to, talk to Mark and Rich, of course.
I can help with that if you need me to jump in too.
Okay.
As far as
I guess my thought process, when I first went out and tried to get, the different financing options, of course, and all of you would agree to save every taxpayer dollar we could. But secondly, I was really interested in keeping the business local. I mean, that was just something I think that everybody kind of would like to do. Of course, if this is the way you want to go, I, of course, would support it. But I did reach out to our leasing option. Actually, I called Chief Edwards just to touch base with him on it. And I did talk to the leasing. Now, this is a lease to own, much like when our police department buys vehicles and stuff. I said, hey, I know the rates have gotten a little better. Where are you at with this? And because I never really told him that we weren't going with them, we sort of kept our options open. But he basically said that they could do it in 2 weeks. So my concern, and I think the chief would agree with me, is the timeliness of going out to bond. We're talking what, middle of July or Rich? Probably.
About a month.
Okay. And again, I will support whatever you guys, vote on, or whatever you decide, but my big thing was just finding out about it. I was just like, ugh, I really made the effort to keep things local while saving taxpayer dollars. But I did reach out to the leasing company, and like I said, he verbally told me that the rates have changed and that he would be willing to do the full price, less the discount, for 3.17%. And that he could close it in 2 weeks. My big thing is the discount. Okay, as you recall, we have a $26,000 discount offered to us to prepay. So basically, that's why we're doing the financing now instead of a year from now when the truck is ready. But every day that goes by, we get a little bit less of that discount. So I guess I'm just saying, are we going to spend $30,000 in costs and just eat up our discount? That's my only concern. And that was just my thought process. I don't know if the mayor has anything to add or anybody else, but.
Mark, do you have anything to add?
Well, what we need to clarify is there's going to be a lease to own agreement for a 10-year type of lease? Or is it going to be a type of bond lease to own program, which the local bank ended up offering us, which was entirely different than the original proposal that we looked at. So we need, if we go for a 10-year bond, most likely our interest rate would be 2% or less.
Richard?
Again, there's no guarantees.
Yes.
We're taking that chance.
So you're talking about 3 different ways to get to the same point. We all want the truck at the lowest cost, at the fastest. We want that truck on the road yesterday. So we all agree on that. What you have is 3 different ways to get it. One is a lease to own. As Marcia said, that works pretty much the same as when the police purchase cruisers. The second is what Community offered. And Community, by the way, is not a local bank. The person I dealt with at Community is in Vermont. Community has local branches, but they're not a Dunkirk bank. We have one bank that's local, and that's Lakeshore. The rest are headquartered in other states. What Community offered was a private placement bond. It's a bond, but instead of going to market, they essentially, we deal directly with them, and it works kind of like a loan, but it's a bond. And the rate they were offering is a little bit more than what the lease rate that Marcia just quoted. So it was in the 3-point-something range. When Mark and I realized that we were talking bond, the question was whether going to market. The third way, usually when you float a bond, it's like when a company needs money, a private corporation, and they either float bond sales or they float, it's basically IOUs. Somebody buys the IOU and we pay them 5% interest and we get the money. And we can float our operations or purchase a truck. Or a company issues stock. And that's, I give you a piece of the company, you give me cash, I fund purchase of the truck. A municipality can't float stocks, but a municipality can float what's called municipal bonds. Those are attractive in the market because they're tax exempt. And so people who have a lot of tax exposure and institutions, mutual funds, banks, insurance companies, they like tax exempt bonds. So they go out to market. And so basically the 30 grand in transactional cost is going out to market, selling a bond saying we need $1.x million to purchase this brand new truck built to spec. So we float it to market. The market then, all these different investors, basically it's like, going to the stock exchange, I offer this, I offer this. And what our bond consultant and our bond counsel told us that generally in that kind of situation, you're gonna get a better rate. And the example was given to us, Olean recently floated a similar bond for a similar purchase, and their rate was somewhere in the 1.75 to 2.5 range. Even at 2.5, it's a substantial savings over the quote, both the lease quote and the private placement bond quote from Community. So even with the transaction costs added into that, you still have a net savings. Is the net savings humongous? No. It's about $30,000 over 10 years, $3,000 a year in interest savings. But it's a savings nevertheless. That $30,000 floats a clerical position, minus benefits. So there's a savings to be had there. Now, in terms of timing, this truck has to be built to spec. So of course we want the money in their hands as soon as possible. What we're talking about now, based on what we were told by bond counsel, they told Mark and I and Marcia, that you're talking about, it's a 5 to 6 week turnaround before everything's said and done. So you save 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks going with the lease option, but you pay a higher rate over time. And you still end up with the truck. It's getting there, but it's getting there at what's the fastest way and what's the way that's the most cost efficient for the city. And in this case, floating the bond is gonna get us the best rate.
Rich, what is the bond, if you purchase the bonds, what's the interest rate?
That's what we're being told is right now the market is floating between 1.75 and 2.5. And the one that the example he was Olean was I think 2 point, and Mark you might remember
And
2.87.
1.87. Again, the request will go out to over 100 potential lenders, bidders on the bond.
So that's where we're at, and that's the differential. So even if you factor in the transactional costs that you have, because we have to hire out bond counsel and deal with a bond consultant and what have you, even factoring that in, you still have a net savings of about $30,000.
But if you have, let me ask you, if you're going to save $26,000 a discount going now, you're only talking about $4,000.
No, that's not true. That's you're talking about $26,000 up front, but then you're going to pay X amount over that in interest over the life of that lease. That's the math.
So it's not a wash.
It's not a wash. It's apples and oranges. It's not an exact comparison.
So this resolution before us, number 53, is which one of those 3 choices?
This is going to market, which is going to get us the best interest rate over that time.
Somewhere supposedly between 1.75 and 2.5. Any further questions or concerns? Any more discussion? No understanding? We've had 2 weeks to discuss this since this came across our table, or 3 weeks, something like that. Okay, since this is a pre-filed resolution, I would then be asking for a roll call during the meeting. Number 54?
54, resolution authorizing a lease agreement for an office copier at the wastewater treatment plant.
Any discussion, council? Concerns? Okay, I'll be asking for a roll call during the council meeting for that as well. Number 55.
Resolution authorizing execution of letter of intent to lease City of Dunkirk land within Town of Dunkirk.
Any discussion on that? Council, department heads? I'll be asking for a roll call on that. Any new business before us? Walk-ins? Seeing none, motion to adjourn workshop.
So moved. Second.
Councilman Williams, Councilman Heenan. Clerk call roll.
Councilmember Williams.
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto.
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan.
Aye.
Councilmember Civiletto.
Aye.
Councilmember Elijah Washington.
Aye. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we begin this evening, I have been reminded, if anybody's speaking tonight, whether it be a council person or a department head or somebody in the audience, if you could please speak loud and clearly into the microphones. Apparently, it's not projecting enough for the individuals that watch it on TV at home, and it's a very faint sound. So if you are speaking, no matter who it is, no matter what microphone it is, please speak loudly and clearly. Certification of the prior meetings.
This is to certify that an official copy of the minutes of the Common Council meeting of Tuesday, May 21st, 2019 was presented to the mayor on Thursday, May 30th, 2019. Pursuant to Section 3.03 of the Dunkirk City Charter, all items presented to the mayor are now in full force and effect, in witness whereof I have hereto set my hand and the seal of the City of Dunkirk, New York, this 4th day of June, 2019.
Need a motion dispensing with the reading of the minutes?
So move.
Councilman Williams with the first.
Second.
Councilman Civiletto with the second. Clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Williams.
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto.
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan.
Aye.
Councilmember Civiletto.
Aye.
Councilmember Elijah Washington.
Aye. Reading of the privilege of the floor regulations.
The privilege of the floor shall be extended to any person appearing for themselves, in which case the individual shall be limited to 3 minutes, and to any person representing a group who shall be limited to 5 minutes. When recognized, please stand and state your name and address. The city clerk shall have the duty of maintaining such time limits, and the councilman at large may determine in his discretion whether individuals are speaking for themselves or representing groups. Councilman at large Washington shall maintain good order and may require any speaker to cease speaking if remarks are made in bad taste or are slanderous or non-germane to any action taken or contemplated by council. The time limits shall be strictly adhered to, except that a speaker may be allowed to complete a statement or thought started before such time has expired.
With that said, as I've said for the past couple months, I would like to remind everybody, the privilege of the floor is not a question and answer period. If somebody comes to the podium and asks questions, chances are your questions will not be answered at that point in time. Those questions will be answered at a later point in time if that person chooses to do so during their time on the floor. On the opposite side of that, if an individual that is employed by the city of Dunkirk up here chooses to answer the question at that time during the privilege of the floor, they are doing that by their choice. So with that said, privilege of the floor is now open. You may come up to the podium, state your name and address if you have anything to speak about.
Number 1, request from the Dunkirk First United Methodist Church and other participating churches to use Washington Park on Saturday, June 22nd, 2019, to host a neighborhood block party with music, games, a bounce house, and hot dogs from 10 a.m. till 2 p.m.
Any discussion, council? Seeing none, I need a motion to refer to the appropriate departments as well as approve, subject to appropriate insurances and usual conditions.
So move.
Councilman Williams with the first. Councilman Bamanto with the second. Clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Williams.
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto.
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan.
Aye.
Councilmember Civiletto.
Aye.
Councilmember Elijah Washington.
Aye. Number 2.
Number 2, request from the Unique Car Club to hold a car show at the Brooks Locomotive Large Pavilion and the Lower Pavilion of Point Gratiot on Sunday, August 25th, 2019, from 12 p.m. until 6 p.m.
Any discussion, council? Councilman Williams?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, at the workshop, Mr. Rivera had mentioned that he'd like the police to do a few tours through there during the time that they're having the car show, just so that there was a good presence there. He said that they don't look like there's going to be any trouble there, and just to have a police presence, just to keep from the possibility of trouble starting up. So just want to remind that maybe we could do a couple more patrols through there during that, at that time. And then that's all I wanted for that one. Thanks.
Okay, further discussion? Councilman Civiletto?
Just wanted to show my support for this. Mr. Rivera is my neighbor, and we've had quite a few discussions about car clubs and what he plans on doing with this. And he talks to me all the time about the community and how much he cares about Dunkirk and how he wants to show a good face of Dunkirk to people from out of town. So that's what this is all about. It's about bringing people in to see our awesome point and to give it and to show off, showing off cars, but also showing off Dunkirk too. He's a proud citizen. One of the things that has been kind of glossed over is that the proceeds from the entrance fees are all going to be donated to the police department to the Dunkirk Police Department for youth education and equipment. So it's something that this is a charitable event. It's something that he cares. Not only does he ask for presents from the police, but he cares that they get something back out of this as well. So I just wanted to show my support and say that I'm all for it.
Thank you, Councilman Civiletto. Anybody else wishing to speak? I am looking for a usual motion to refer to the appropriate departments as well as approve, subject to appropriate insurances and usual conditions.
So move.
Councilman Williams with the first.
Second.
Councilman Civiletto with the second. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Williams?
Aye.
Councilmember Belanto?
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan?
Aye.
Councilmember Civiletto?
Aye.
Councilmember at-large Voisin?
Aye. Number 3.
Request from the Dunkirk City School District to have the road between Serval Street and Warsaw Street closed to traffic on Monday, June 24, 2019, from 8 a.m. until 2 p.m. to accommodate the end-of-school year picnic at...
Are we gonna get those 2 piles out then pretty soon that are there now still? Because they weren't removed yet.
We got the first pile of stones moved pretty quickly. Now we'll address the other 2 piles.
Okay. Also, what is the plan for the beaches? There's still a lot of wood and debris scattered along all the beaches, what it looks like.
Right. The Parks Division will send a loader down there and clean it up best we can with that. And
I saw the prisoners were there today at Main Street Beach, but they were just picking up small garbage and putting it in baggies. But there's a lot of big wood down there, and I don't know if that's being saved for any of the bring your own chair events, but it's a bit of a mess.
We'll handle the big wood. And I'd also like to announce that the United States Navy is going to have about 30 sailors that are going to be in town on Friday, and they have to do some volunteer work as part of their training mission, and they're going to clean the beach of litter from the pier all the way over to behind the high-rise, where it tends to accumulate by wave action. So we have some volunteers from our armed services that we're going to welcome and treat them well at the incubator, and then they're going to do some work for us along the beach. But the heavy stuff that you can't move by hand, we will address with our equipment, and we're also with shared services.
Okay. Last thing I have is, while I was working shared service for the city today, I was stopped by a gentleman that was asking if on that driveway that leads out to the yacht club, he said in the past that when the driveway was a little bit more west, there was a bit of signage by there that reserved a spot for the sheriff, so that when they're there to get to their boat, and I believe he said for the DEC, and he was wondering if we could get signs back up there again so that they'd be up closer so that they could get to the boat.
That entire fence, it was designed so they could have reserve signage put on it. We just haven't got to it yet.
And then he also asked, because he lives on Robin Street, and he said when he sees people walking down to go for the 4th of July, a lot of people are in walkers or something because they can't get down there, and was wondering if, at the very least, if during the 4th of July, if we could make some of that handicap parking so the people aren't walking from parking on 3rd Street, walking through the tunnel and walking down to get down there.
Yeah, that whole strip, that the road that now leads toward the yacht club is not a yacht club road, but it just happens to be there. That's primarily reserved for being a disability spots. 1 or 2 will be there, and it'll also be 24/7 police/fire only. There's a need to have several spots reserved for that. And we'll probably put, with the mayor and I will review this, we may put a loading or unloading spot there for somebody that has to do something in that area. Other than that, all that stuff is going to be reserved for those things that we did in the past. The signs just are not up yet.
All right, and then do we do anything to prohibit them from parking on the lawn there?
There will be a sign on the easterly side, no parking on this side. And then once we do that through the proper process, then it could be police enforced, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, thank you, Councilman Williams. Councilman Bamanto?
David, how are we doing on seasonal staffing, especially with the lifeguards?
Well, I'm pleased to report that I think we're going to reach our goal sooner than we did last year. We employed some new advertising in the HR department, and it seemed to bring the kids out, or interest the kids a little bit more. And we've actually had one full class recertification that was completed last week of 10 students. And so we're going to be all set.
And we hired some more seasonal staff?
Yes, we did. We had 9.
For parks and streets?
Yes.
Are we still looking for more?
Yes, we are.
So let the people know we are still looking for more seasonal help.
Yep.
Get down to City Hall and apply, please. Thank you.
Yep.
Number 2, Rebecca, can you explain what's going on with the Spring Fest this weekend?
Yeah, we have the tournament, the not the baseball tournament, but I'm blanking on the softball tournament that Ryan Hall.
Oh, the Home Run Derby?
Home Run Derby, thank
Okay.
you. Will be this weekend. Music on the Pier starts this Thursday as well, so that's the kickoff for the music, which will be at Memorial Park. And then we have multiple different events happening during the weekend that will be posted on the city website.
Okay,
Available.
thank you. Who else I have something here for? Number 3. Music at the Pier, we got that. I'd like to thank the mayor and everybody involved with the Memorial Day Parade. I think that was the first time the city ran it. Very well organized, well attended. I think we all had a good time. The kids had a great time. So thank you for that. I'd like to thank Jim Fisher, revitalized Dunkirk, all the help you guys been doing for us. You know, it doesn't go unnoticed. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilman Bamanto. Councilman Heenan?
Nothing, sir.
Thank you, Councilman Heenan. Councilman Civiletto?
I also want to thank Revitalize Dunkirk. I was at the cleanup, the community cleanup, and it was fantastic success. It was cold that day, but we got out there and it started to rain, but people persevered and we went out and we cleaned a lot of parts of the city. Want to let everyone know that this weekend on Friday, there's going to be an event at the Adams Art Gallery, and it will be highlighting what they're going to be doing over the next year. It's meeting the board and talking about the center, and it's really not the Adams Art Gallery. It's the Adams. It's just the Adams, and basically talking about what the ideas are for what's going to happen in the next year. Especially turning it into a fine arts or whatever type of event center it can be offered as. So we're also going to be cleaning it up on Thursday. If anyone feels like coming and helping us out after work at 5 o'clock on Thursday, we'll be there getting ready for the event for Friday.
Councilman?
Yes.
What's the time?
Time is at, what was it, 7? At 6 o'clock. Starts at 6.
6 to 10.
6 to 10. Did want to ask Rebecca, I'm happy that we closed on the dog park and that we're moving along. I know the weather's been horrible and that whole section has been a muddy mess, but where are we with the process of getting that opened up?
Yeah, so we recently closed on the entire property as well as the dog park that's on the property and the building that will be turned into the city's animal shelter. I'm going to be meeting with Randy and Glenn to go over plans for the shelter and to get all of the installations into the dog park. Hopefully this June we'll be able to get the dog park open and we'll be working on renovations at the shelter.
Fantastic. I want to thank the mayor for sending that application in and actually handing it in Albany himself, I believe, is how that works. So thank you very much. One other thing, I did want to respond to Mrs. Nichols' the last council meeting. She talked about the area that her husband and her family worked on diligently to make sure that there was a green spot by the pier, and of course the city is very grateful for that. But she talked about how there was going to be changes. I didn't make a comment at the time because I wasn't 100% sure, but I had been to all of the different pier proposals and had looked at all the plans earlier. I never remembered anything being changed there. The two pads that were laid, the concrete pads that were laid by her husband are going to stay. The two trees that were planted are going to stay. The green area is going to stay. In fact, the flagpole is going to have a nautical theme added to it. There's going to be nothing but improvements to that area. So I'm a little confused about what the questions were, because not only was it talked about during the common council meeting, but also in the newspaper. So that area will be the same or better than it was before. We're actually, and Mrs. Nichols was told this by our engineer, that we're going to be putting a monument stone there with her husband's name on it. So I was a little confused about what the problem was, but I can assure her that everything's going to be the same or better than it was left by Mrs. Nichols and her family. And I believe that's it.
Thank you, Council.
We're not going to have a public safety committee this month. We have it every other month, and we had one last month. I believe it's on the calendar, but that's going to be taken off. Sorry.
That was previously scheduled for the 12th.
Yeah, so that will not, that'll be next month.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Civiletto. My microphone decided not to work, so. Mr. Rivera, I just wanted to thank you for stopping by today to speak to us during the workshop session and to speak to us here and answer any questions or concerns we may have had, and I appreciate you standing up and representing your group. Thank you. Glenn, a couple questions for you. I see we finally got some burnt down houses down on Deer Street. Any timetable for the burnt down houses on the corner of Roberts and Route 5? Or is that a Rebecca question? Right next to the Don Polsky Club?
We actually, I believe, have one of the owners in court here tomorrow.
Oh, wow, okay. So hopefully something this summer then? Okay.
In addition, we also have some additional funding through CDBG that we can use towards demos, so we'll be looking at that.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That is all I have. There is no unfinished business, so we'll move right along to pre-filed resolutions. Resolution 53.
Resolution authorizing a bond resolution for the acquisition of a fire truck for apparatus.
There's actually supposed to say a resolution authorizing a bond sale. So It is correct on the paperwork itself, but it was just transposed onto the agenda incorrectly, so we'll chalk that up as a typo. Resolution authorizing a bond sale for the acquisition of a ladder, fire truck, and apparatus. Any discussion, council? Seeing none, clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Williams.
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto.
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan.
Aye.
Councilmember Civiletto.
Aye.
Councilmember at-large Voroshin.
Aye. Number 54.
54, resolution authorizing a lease agreement for an office copier at the wastewater treatment plant.
Any discussion, council? Councilman Williams?
Just want to mention, we did talk about this at the last Finance Committee meeting, and I believe that it's going to end up costing less than what they were paying before on the previous copier.
That is correct. Any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Williams.
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto.
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan.
Aye.
Councilmember Civiletto.
Aye.
Councilmember at-large Voroshin.
Aye. Number 55.
Resolution authorizing execution of letter of intent to lease City of Dunkirk land within Town of Dunkirk.
Any discussion, council? Seeing none, clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Williams.
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto.
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan.
Aye.
Councilmember Civiletto.
Aye.
Councilmember at-large Voroshin.
Aye. Any new business brought before us? Walk-ins? Last-minute changes? Seeing none, motion to adjourn.
So move.
Councilman Williams with the first. Who was that? Councilman Heenan with the second. Clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Williams.
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto.
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan.
Aye.
Councilmember Civiletto.
Aye.
Councilmember at-large Voroshin.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.